guys. Sorry about that. It's part of having a hybrid meeting. So hang on, because we're about to switch speakers, because unfortunately we have to get to our next speaker. So
thank you, everybody. Appreciate that. I'll be here on
Ed.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Hang on with us, guys, online. We knew this wasn't going to be perfect. That's why I apologized in advance before the meeting. We have another speaker tonight. I'm excited to announce Joe Kent is coming here to introduce himself to us, running in the 3rd Congressional District. Joe Kent.
Yeah, it's awkward. Hey, good evening. Thank you so much for letting me come out and introduce myself. So my name is Joe Kent. I'm running to primary Jamie Herrera Butler in the 3rd District. Appreciate that. So I'm from right out here in the Pacific Northwest. Grew up just in Portland, Oregon. I was born and raised there as my folks were making a living for us. As far back as I can remember, I wanted to serve our country at war in the military. I was greatly inspired by the stories of all those who had gone before us, who had gone on off and fought evil on behalf of our nation so we could live in peace here in the States. So when I turned 18, I fulfilled my dream and enlisted in the United States Army as an infantryman, worked my way into Ranger Battalion and then into Special Forces. When our country was attacked on September 11th, 2001, I found myself exactly where I wanted to be, serving on the front lines with the men and women of the Special Operations community. So for nearly the next 2 decades of continuous combat, I got to go after the enemies of our nation. Going to combat for this country for me was the greatest honor of my lifetime. It was also the most formidable experience of my lifetime. In combat, I got to lead great men and women every day, hone their talents and put them towards a common mission and a common purpose. I also unfortunately saw the downside of our government and our establishment. I saw that our establishment, the people that we elect and send to Washington, D.C. to represent our best interests, don't actually have our best interests in mind. Directly after 9/11, we went to war for all the right reasons. We had to go attack Al-Qaeda, we had to go attack their supporters, and we had to take them out. However, shortly after we began that attack, we switched missions without the consent of Congress and without the consent of the American people. This was done with unilateral consent by our ruling class, by the Republicans and the Democrats. And so for the next nearly 2 decades, we fought wars of regime change that did nothing but make our country less secure and deprived us of many great young men and young women who had their lives cut short. Our enemies also got stronger. China and Russia grew. China greatly benefited from America taking their eye off the ball, and our ruling class once again shipping jobs overseas so that major corporations could benefit and the American people could do nothing but suffer and lose jobs back home. So I was very inspired by the people that I went and I served with. So I stayed in the military and I continued to fight. I felt like that was where I belonged. I was a warrior and that was my job and my calling. By the time George Bush was done with the end of his administration, I was pretty much done with the Republican Party. I was sick of the lies. Iraq had been a total quagmire. So I was pretty frustrated. Obama came on the scene. I've been conservative my entire life. I didn't believe a word he said. And he didn't change my mind. He just got us deeply more entrenched in foreign wars that never seemed to end. Despite all of his rhetoric, he actually launched new wars that were totally unconstitutional and illegal, killed American citizens overseas without any due process. So by the end of the Obama administration, I was still pretty disenfranchised of our political establishment. And that was until 2016 when President Trump came on the scene. So for me, President Trump really won me over when he went after the Republican establishment first.
Yes.
That really spoke to me, especially being overseas and serving. So he said everything that pretty much I had just said, that our political interests were not being met by our political class. We were being lied to. So when President Trump took over the presidency as our commander-in-chief, I had the privilege of going to combat 3 more times under him, and it was a night and day difference. President Trump stated a clear military objective, such as go smash ISIS, get rid of them so they can't hurt us anymore, and then we're getting the hell out. We did that because of the authorities and the support that President Trump gave us and his leadership. So I retired from the military in 2018 and immediately started a second career in the intelligence community because I was deeply inspired to continue to serve our country overseas. I wanted to serve in that capacity for the next 20 years and make that my second career. Unfortunately, about 2 years ago, my world got turned upside down. My wife was also a special operator, and she was serving her country overseas in Syria, and she was killed by ISIS by a suicide bomber.
Oh my God.
She was killed at a very pivotal time in our nation's history and in President Trump's administration. So just a month before she was killed, President Trump had seen that we had destroyed the territorial caliphate of ISIS, all the ground they controlled, and he tried to pull us out of Syria. And we all saw what happened next. The Department of Defense, an army of unelected bureaucrats in the State Department, went about slow rolling and lying and betraying President Trump to leave our troops in Syria, to leave our troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. So from there, despite the personal guilt or grief that I was going through and having to, take care of my young children, I realized I needed to start speaking out and let people know what I had seen in my 20 plus years of service to this country, that President Trump was right, despite everything and what was being said in the media, that he was somehow making our nation less safe by trying to get us out of a war. I wanted my voice be heard. So I started writing op-eds, going on the news as much as I could to articulate that President Trump was indeed correct in what he was doing, both because it was a campaign promise that he made, but also because it was the right thing to do based on the conditions of the ground. So I continued to serve in that capacity for about the next year and a half, all the way through the campaign. And then we all saw what happened in November of 2020. Big tech, mainstream media, unelected bureaucrats once again, corporations and labor unions all moved in sweeping lockstep to tell us that Joe Biden had won an overwhelming victory. And we couldn't even question it, despite widespread irregularity and straight up fraud. If we questioned it, we'd be labeled as insurrectionists, terrorists. We can get kicked off social media. Our ability to make money could be taken away if they deplatformed us from monetizing sites. So seeing all that, I knew that I had to do something. I had to get involved, just like everyone here so far has said tonight. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And that was until the woman that I voted for, that I campaigned for, that I gave money to, stabbed me in the back and stabbed all of us in the back by voting to impeach President Trump. And then she went one step further by offering to be the star witness based off whatever third-hand testimony, her effort to get more media coverage. I've never been very good at asking people to go fight for me. I've always wanted to go off and face danger on my own, of my own accord. So I got a website together, did my FEC filings, and announced that I'm running to go after James Guerrero Butler. So in my time in the military, I think has really set me up for this fight, because the way that the Democrats and the left are going after us, they're using network methodology in a very, very compliant and unified culture to shove everything they want to push down our throats. And it's all about control. From the way that they want to put Planned Parenthood sex ed into our schools, the way they want to redefine what a man and a woman is. We all know that's wrong. We all know it's sick and disgusting, but it's actually deviously smart, because if you can take away what a man is, what a protector is, what someone who goes out and fights is, if you can take away what a woman is, what a nurturer is, what a family is, you can get total control of the family unit. If you take away those people's ability to earn a job by exploiting a disease, a pandemic, and telling them they have to stay locked down, and you can't go to work, but you can go to Walmart, but you can go to all these big brand name stores. You can shop on Amazon still. Don't worry, the government will send you a paycheck whenever they get to it. Exactly, you can still have an abortion. Exactly, and you can't go to church. You can't worship. We'll give you back your constitutional rights when we get to it. Is what the government and the left is saying in lockstep. The media goes right along with them, and echoes it. Again, if you question that, they're going to kick you off whatever platform you said that on because you're spreading what they call disinformation or hate speech or something that's just ridiculous. So the networked methodology that the left is using to go after our families, the way that they've shipped our jobs overseas, that has done nothing but enrich major corporations, is continuing with this policy of letting China back into our economy and opening up our borders. They're locking us down, but they're opening the borders up. You can't go to church, but the borders are open. The schools are closed, the borders are open. It's absolutely insane. But they're bringing in massive amounts of legal immigrants who most of them pose some sort of a threat. Not all of them, but some of them do, because countries aren't stupid. They're going to export some people here that they don't want in their country if we open our border up. But what that labor does, as we all know, is it floods the zone with people that these major corporations, the ones who didn't have their businesses taken away from them, can now use, and they don't have to hire Americans. So once again, we keep Americans whose families are under assault from the moral wing of the Democrats. Now they can't have jobs. And then when you look at what the Democrats are doing with oil prices, they go ahead and they kill the Keystone Pipeline first thing in. So what does that do? Now cost of living costs even more for us. You still can't go back to work, so you still really need the government. It's like a drug dealer. But also, the oil prices keep going up, and we still need foreign oil. President Trump, the Keystone Pipeline, and all the fracking that President Trump put into his administration had gotten us energy independent. We didn't need the Middle East anymore. We didn't need Russia anymore, as much as we heard about Russia, right, with President Trump. But now we're back to needing the Middle East. Oil prices are going up, and our endless wars are continuing. Joe Biden hasn't done a press conference, but he's bombed Syria, and Congress is totally absent on it. No State of the Union, but we got time to kill jobs and potentially get us into a new war. States are still locked down. So this network methodology is exactly what I was trained to do as a leader in Special Forces. In Special Forces, our job is to go in behind enemy lines and attack enemy networks by building out our own human networks. And from hearing from all of you this evening, I think there's enough people within our community in the 3rd District and beyond this entire nation. This is a conservative country. There's just a couple urban centers that have control of our government, unfortunately. So if we start now, we start organizing, and we really get our ground game together, we can take back this district, we can take back all of our cities, and we can take our country back. And that's what I want to do. I want to go forward and fight, just like I did for over 20 years for you. And I want to fight to bring your voices back to Washington, D.C. So, if you... Cards and pamphlets to the left of the door on your way out. I'm going to grab those, and if anybody has any questions, I'll take them. It's off.
Hi, Joe.
We don't have time for 2 questions.
Okay, sure. I'm sorry. Yeah.
One quick question. There was a rumor going about that the Trump camp had picked a veteran male conservative to run against Jamie. Are you him?
I cannot confirm that right now. So I have not been contacted officially by the Trump camp. So there is 2 of us. There's 2 conservative males that are veterans. There's another guy, Wadi Yakor, who's running as well. Hi.
Is there anything in your platform that sets you apart from the other Republicans that are running?
Yes, absolutely. So leadership experience on a personal level is what really sets me aside. I've been a combat leader for over 21 years in the military. I'm a project manager on the civilian side in my civilian job. My platform is America first. So everything I want to do is to put this country first. No, I don't. So if you go to my website, yourcongress.com, there's an issues tab there, and you can look through all my different stances on the various issues. There's also an email when you contact me. All my social media is on there too. If you email me, I can answer any questions you have, and the same thing on all the different social media platforms. So, thank you so much for your time.